Yeah, welcome to the Watchers podcast. What's up, Eldad? How you doing?
Good, Mr.
Cool,
AD.
cool, cool. You want to touch
Yes,
on what we were speaking on before, like in the last
yes,
one?
yes. So, where do you want us to start from? Because we could speak about the police brutality and how England and America view, how they treat black people when
Yeah,
it comes to, you know,
or even minorities in general.
in general. Exactly,
Yeah, yeah,
exactly. So,
yeah.
what I was going to say is, how do you want us to start with this then? If there's a point that you like to start with, that because as I said to you earlier, there's been a lot of people who've touched on this subject.
Yeah.
How is the way you're thinking of it slightly different? Where do you want to come from? What angle?
I'm coming from the angle of human psychology, how
Mm-mm-mm.
humans think. Because from the last one that we did, we got into how humans view themselves and view other people and so on and so forth. So this one, we could use that to delve into this topic
Mm-hmm.
instead of looking at it from a perspective of us against them and even against good and whatever. Look at it from a human perspective.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And this is, it's I'm glad you said human perspective, because the problem can be that I how does the police feel as a human too?
yeah,
Where are they getting information from? If the information that they were getting about minorities were factual, would their attitude change towards us? It's like, are they acting based on what others are telling them?
yeah,
And in the police force, do we have good policemen?
yeah. And you also got to answer the question: do we have bad police men as well?
Yeah, 100%. That
Yeah,
one we know
that
because,
the one we know.
yeah.
Yeah,
And I feel like recently it's been really brought to the spotlight because back in the day, you wouldn't know, would you?
you wouldn't.
There's, yeah, there's no one really recording it. And even now, even though we get the big ones, because I feel like every year there's one major one or a couple
Yeah,
that gets everyone upset.
yeah,
But I do know with some of my friends in America, when you speak to them, it's like there are so many other ones that are not reported.
yeah. A lot, a lot. There are a lot that are not reported at all.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah.
So yeah, man. So where do you want to start on this topic? Do you should I give my opinion
Yes,
on what it is?
100%.
Okay, okay.
And I'm
Um,
gonna challenge you if you're wrong. I'm gonna give you, yeah,
challenge me, bruh. Challenge me. But yeah, the first thing to do is to start with what is the problem. Yeah,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
and the problem that we see a lot is strong-handed policing, police brutality, stereotyping, profiling, and those kind of things. Then you have one side of this spectrum would say, oh, well, you know, the stereotype, well, stop doing crime, or, so you know how we paint a whole race. Everybody does it. People would paint up the white race with one brush. People would paint the black race with one race with a brush. People just, it's just how we're programmed. We just paint everything, right? So um, the way police approach certain people, and it depends on the country you're in. So if you got a country that's majority one race and there's a minority, the minority is always demonized. So how their police would be the same as if the same way police would police minorities in the USA or in England. Yeah. Um, Basically, what happens is, right, we know that in this world that we live in, we have been painted with a specific stereotype. Yeah. So I always thought when you see policemen dealing with their own, right, they're looking at that person. Remember, I had mentioned before in the last podcast how if you don't value yourself, you look at somebody who looks like you won't value them as well, because it's like a mirror image. You're seeing a reflection of you. So automatically you don't value them. Hence why you see a lot of crime within communities,
Yeah.
because they
So
look, hmm?
mhm.
Go on, go on.
Sorry for stopping you there. So looking like them, minorities, they look down on them. Do you think that people of the same race can look down on each other, even though they both come from the same background?
Of course, of
Yeah.
course, because the message is universal. Everybody's saying the same message. Yeah. So if you're targeting, let's say, all right, let's use football for analogy, right? As an analogy. Let's say you have Arsenal, yeah? Everybody is targeting Arsenal. They're garbage. They're rubbish, yeah? Um, a terrible board, bad players, whatever. If that happens enough, the people in the team will start to look at each other that way. So let's say I'm an Arsenal player. I start to listen to the words. I start to feel like I'm a terrible football player. I go on the pitch. I see my teammate, yeah, Arsenal shirt. I start to think, oh man, he's garbage, because we're all garbage. The moment he makes a slight mistake, you'll see, rubbish, yeah, and all logic goes out the window. And that's how people have been programmed around the world. People that have been um, told that they're lesser than, yeah. So, and then what happens is the people that make minorities feel lesser than, yeah, chastise them and say, "Oh, fix up. Oh, there's black on black crime or Asian on Asian crime or whatever. Fix up." Yeah. So it's almost like you plant the seed, you psychologically create the scenario, and then you
Yeah.
berate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if you have a community, and this happens with anybody. If you put a bunch of poor white people in an area, yeah, and you tell them how worthless they are over and over, and they start to see themselves in that community as worthless, they start, one or two things will happen. They will come together as a community, and but that's kind of rare, or they'll fight amongst each other because they see each other as you know worthless. But it has to be a specific characteristic. So if you say all people in this city that are ginger, or something, you have to cling on to a specific characteristic,
Yeah.
yeah, for it to work. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're black, if you're Asian, if you got ginger hair, if you're this, if you're that, and yeah. So you want to add anything to that?
Yeah. So I was going to say, regarding the police brutality when it comes to treating minority differently,
Yeah,
how often does it happen, you reckon?
I reckon it happens a lot more than people think. But I also reckon that a lot of cases can be escalated through paranoia, because if you feel like, example, I'm using an example from the past to to clarify this point. At college, me and a girlfriend were going to the station to go home, and we walked towards this lady, and she saw us, and she set an alarm off on her, and we were like, "What the hell?" And she said, "Oh, sorry, sorry. I've been robbed before, so I'm a bit, scared." And I was like, "All right, cool, whatever, yeah." But that kind of stuck with me. So she's so paranoid, yeah, from what's happened to her, that she escalated a situation that didn't need to be escalated. She
Yeah,
saw
but
something.
what if someone was to say it just happened to be you and your Asian friend who was there? It
Yeah.
could have been an English person.
You mean that was walking towards?
Yeah, towards her.
It could have been, but it all depends on who's been robbing her. So if she got robbed by a bunch of English youth, yeah, then yeah, if she got no, actually, I believe if she got robbed by English youth, she wouldn't be that paranoid, because in her mind, it's a reflection. It's like, they're doing bad, but hey, let me put myself in their shoes, and you know, but with anybody, when it comes to people that are different, it's hard for people to put themselves in their shoes because they're different, you know. So when you if somebody got robbed by a black youth, automatically their brain's gonna say, oh, this thing, this, if I see this, it's a threat. Yeah, there's no reflection. There's no like, oh, it's just that one person, he's bad, you know, but that doesn't mean that he reflects. And I'm not saying this for everybody because not everybody thinks that way. There are a lot of people who know this is not the case. Everyone's different. Each individual is different. There are a lot of people that know that. Yeah. But I would say a chunk of people see it as wants to see one person do something, it reflect in their eyes, it reflects on everybody else that looks like that person. So to tie in, yeah, it could have been an English person, yeah, but I feel it would be less likely that she would have set the alarm off. She probably wanna the fear probably would not have stuck within her, would not have resonated with her for that long because the person that robbed her looks like everyone that's around her. So that's normal, that's natural. You see?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think it would have, you know. But she apologized. And again, other people would be offended by it, but human nature, you understand, like, you know.
Yeah.
So I was like,
You know, what was her body language when she was apologizing?
I think once she realized that there was no threat, and when she saw that we were like, whoa, her body language was remorseful. She was like, I'm sorry. And she was like, I'm really sorry. Just that I got robbed by, and I was like, okay,
Yeah.
cool. I didn't even really think about it then, but as you get older, you
Yeah.
know,
Mm.
yeah,
It's interesting because this is a conversation I have with this English friend I have, and because I'm raised from Ghana, I was born in Ghana. When I came here, I didn't understand the concept of racism, and it
yeah,
might sound weird.
it doesn't.
I came here when I was young, came here when I was 12, but I wasn't looking for it, or I don't see it. I didn't see it the way I see it now. Like now, I could see things and I could be like, oh, this could be the reason why, or this is the reason why. It's purely because of the color of this person's skin. But I was raised in Ghana. We don't often see a lot of white people around in the sense of they are there, but it's not as multicultural as the UK. So I also would you say, because I do know that there are British people who are born here, let's say Afro-Caribbean Africans, they've never been to Ghana, they were never raised there. Do you think they have problems with where they belong? And it
Yeah,
can,
yeah. Some do, some don't.
yeah,
Some integrate very well. Some integrate very well by being in the right place at the right time, the right people around them, the right neighborhood, the right location. Some people don't for the opposite reasons, wrong location, wrong environment. And some people do by pandering to the lowest common denominator to fit in, you know. So there are a few variables. There's no one right or wrong answer. It just depends. You know, it just depends on that person's environment, their upbringing, the people around them. Not to say that they wouldn't experience stuff, but they might see it differently from someone who was raised in a neighborhood where they were abused or antagonized repeatedly throughout their years. They might see it as, oh, it's so racist, it's so racist. But the other person who grew up in a neighborhood where everybody was cool and he got along with everyone, they would see it differently. They're like, I can acknowledge that there is racism, but I didn't experience it that much. So it depends on who you are and
we were
where you
based.
yeah, yeah. Like for me, I could say I was born here, and the only reason I was taken to Barbados was because of the negative reinforcements I got here in my neighborhood. So
Oh, really?
yeah, so for me going to school as a 3-year-old, we know that kids, 3-year-old kids are boisterous and naughty and stuff. But I'm a 3-year-old black kid in a predominantly white school. So when I got into fights and stuff, it was reflected on my skin color instead of me as a child.
The child,
So
yeah.
so they would tell my parents that I was going to grow up to be a criminal or I was going to grow up to be no good. So all that negative reinforcement, that's how a lot of people turn out that way when they get older, because you're being told this stuff, like society is telling you, you're worth nothing, you're going to be this, you're going to be that. And then they go, hey, let me just go into the ends, let me just go on the block, you know what I mean? Because
Might as well, yeah.
right. So for me, like my parents said, nah, that's not going to happen. We're going to take him to Barbados. And Barbados is different. So when you act up in Barbados, the teacher just does this. Teacher pulls a belt out, you
It's
know.
true.
So
Yeah.
so again, it depends where you are. If I stayed getting that negative reinforcement, and if my environment was unstable, who knows? You know, who knows?
Yeah.
Life could have gone a completely different way.
Mm. So back to the subject on how minorities are treated even by police
Yeah,
and people in authority.
yeah.
Where is the information coming from about minorities? Who is painting this picture?
All right.
So for instance, the police.
I don't think
Why,
anyone is paying the pay. Sorry?
no, what so why would they feel like minorities are more likely to commit a crime?
That's a good question. I don't think anybody is painting a picture. I think what they're doing is they are editing a picture that has existed for many years. Um, we could go way back from slavery when we were seen as savages and animals. Yeah, and that was the reasoning for slaughter, genocide, and slavery, because we were less than man, which again, like we said, is in psychologically projection. Like we said before, the evil of man, they can't acknowledge their own evil, so they project it onto the people that they was the word, not look down upon, that they help me here, the people that they, let's say, look down upon,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
they right. So it's the same thing. So even from back then, yeah, that fear was instilled from back then. Animals, not humans, dangerous. Yeah.
So
So
it's
if
something like obviously this is another thing we'll touch on later, because sometimes we might think that the only thing that describes minorities, especially black people, is just slavery.
yeah,
But we do know that there was more to us. But
of
if we
course.
start if we starting from then they have that picture in mind, isn't it?
Yeah,
Um, of how they are like, and you know, because a lot of people think that Africa is just one country which is just full of poverty.
yeah.
There is no developed areas. Sometimes people are like, oh, one time someone said to me, do you have mobile phones there? And I'm like, well, how do you think I keep in touch with my family?
Yeah.
You know? So it's like,
Drums,
yeah.
smoke.
Fucking drums, so like,
The ancestors carrying notes between each other.
exactly.
Yeah,
So I could see where you're coming from, because, and I know we spoke, a lot of people have spoken about this when they are growing up, about the adverts that we see on TV. It doesn't paint a good picture. Um, so there's a few other things, and then you've just touched on the slavery. So I'll let you talk more about that. Basically,
yeah,
the picture that has been edited.
yeah.
So what do you mean by that?
Repeat that. The part that has.
You said that they have a picture that has been edited.
Oh, right.
So
They just.
I'm asking you where they're getting the image from.
Oh,
You,
right. They're updating an image that's been planted from way back when. So, like I said,
Mhm.
when they deemed certain people savages and animals, and that gave them license to kill, enslave, you know. So they're projected. So, like I said, if you think about it, it's a projecting of one's evil. So to kill and to enslave and to steal is animalistic. All right, it's dangerous. It's animalistic, but it's projected onto the victim because human beings. And again, this is not picking on any group because even let's say African tribes or West Indian countries that are fighting or any place on this earth where there's a duality of people who run things and the minority, there's always this hatred and whatever inside that's projected onto the lesser, you know. So it gives the perpetrator carte blanche to do all the evil that they want to do on the people that they don't like, but then also put that evil on them too, project it onto them.
That's it. That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
So if you have that and it's passed down and it's passed down and it's passed down, then you create environments where people have no choice. You create the environments like poverty. Like if you approach somebody a certain way and you look at them a certain way, you're not going to give them the opportunities of your peers. You're not going to give them the benefit of the doubt. You're not going to give them a lot of things. So in a sense, they have to do things on their own. Yeah. Sometimes it's tough. You got like neighborhoods that are run down, no funding. I went to Oxford recently, and the one thing I noticed was every corner I turned, on every corner I went around, there was a basketball court, a sports center, you know, things to keep the kids busy. Yeah. And I was like, okay. But in London, everything's being shut down, defunded, no funding. You know, kids have nowhere to go. Kids are on the streets doing rubbish, right? And it's not exclusive to here. If you, there are many places around the world, different races as well. Yeah, every country, every race has a ghetto, a poor area that is looked down upon and neglected. So then in these areas, people turn to crime to survive, or they turn against each other. And then we use that as an example of see, this is exactly what we mean. Dangerous animals. Yeah. And the irony is, if your mind is tuned to seeing life that way, you will forever ignore anything that clashes with your thought process. So I always thought in my mind, right, when people like you will hear a narrative in the USA about black fathers, where are the fathers? Yeah. And I remember watching sports, watching like you watch TV, you watch famous people. You go on the road, you get on the train, you go to work, your daily life, yeah. And I'm just seeing black fathers everywhere, you know, black fathers everywhere. Oh, black fathers everywhere, black fathers everywhere. So it's like a person who's made up their mind that that's your characteristic, yeah. Black fathers aren't there. They could get up, get on the train, sit between two black fathers and never notice them. Yeah. Get off the train, see another black father, never notice him. Yeah. Go to work, their colleague, black father, pictures of his family, never notice him. Um, on their way home, see a mom on her own with four children struggling. Oh, where's the father? See? No black father. See what I mean? So it's almost like the way we are programmed is that we ignore anything that clashes with our program thought process.
Mm-hmm.
And what we see reinforces what we think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you have that passed down all the time, look at this country. We talk about knife crime. Yeah. Yes, it's a big problem, and the youth have gone off the rails. Equally, there's so many youth out there that are doing good things. There's so many statistics of African kids performing at a higher rate in school, you know, many positives. But if your mind is programmed to just see that negative, you would never see a positive. And if you see somebody who's positive, you will automatically paint them as somehow negative
Yeah.
without even knowing them.
It's true. That's
Right.
why sometimes people can say rude words like, "Oh, wow, you're successful," like almost as if to say that is surprising that you were not meant to do that well in life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the picture does. It makes you see certain people that way. So, talking about, so how can we, let's say minorities, how can they help themselves? Because if you've got all these labels on you, how do you maneuver? How do you deal with the police? How do you deal with authorities? How do you cope in life, really?
Here's the thing, right? Where we go off rails there is by saying as minorities. As minorities, we're talking about a whole group of people. Yeah. The one thing that we need to understand as human beings is that no group is a monolith. The way I think is different from the way you think. We're both black, but the way I think is different from the way you think. Our environments are different. Yeah. So with a question like that, I can only speak for myself. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And all I can say is I will continue being who I am and
Mm-hmm.
doing the right thing
Mm-hmm.
because that's how I've always been. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't guarantee that things will work out for me and people will see me in a positive light all the time because that's not how it works. I've been stopped and searched 3 to 4 times already in nice clothing too, in a suit. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter. I could smile like this every day. Hey, how you doing? you know, it doesn't matter
Yeah.
because you are going up against another human being who has a preconceived idea of who you are or
Yeah.
your people. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't do anything about that. All you could do is live your life to the best of your ability. The other people that decide to um, do crime and whatnot, yeah, they're doing their thing. Some realize that they're doing the wrong thing and they change their ways. What they do is no reflection on you, on me, on their next door neighbor. It's only on them, that individual.
That's
And
true.
and their group of people who are doing the same thing they're doing that they know is on them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing, right? We live in a system where if a group that is not part of the majority does something wrong, it gets the whole group gets labeled. Yeah. So I remember Akala, yeah. And I love listening to Akala when he was on was it called Good Morning Britain with Piers Morgan?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what it was correct?
I haven't seen that interview, I haven't seen, but I know he was on there.
Yeah. And they
Mm-hmm.
were talking about knife crime and black youth. And he made a point that in Glasgow they had the same issue with crime and youth, right? And Glasgow is, as we know, white. So he was saying, like, it's got nothing to do with color, it's got to do with the environment. And he said in Glasgow, their approach was holistic. They said, okay, we have a problem here. How do we fix this problem? We get people involved, we get like the community involved. Yeah, we attack this from a holistic point of view. And the reason why they would do that is because they're seeing their brothers, their sisters, their family. They're seeing their people. That could be my son, that could be my daughter, that could be my
That's
cousin,
true. And
right?
that's the key word. They are seeing people.
They're seeing people. They're
That's it.
seeing they're seeing people because they're mirror images of them. They look at
Okay.
they look at the people and think that could have been me. I could have gone off the rails. So what can we do?
Yeah,
But
but are you saying they're dealing with it like whether they were from any other country, they still viewed it as it could have been me, or just coming from us, they all white and they see themselves in each other? Is that what you're saying?
exactly, exactly,
Mm, mm,
exactly.
mm,
Whereas
mm,
now, if you're looking at these black youth or these Asian youth, yeah, up to no good, you don't empathize or sympathize with them. They don't look like you. They're not you. You don't think, oh, this person could have had a hard time or is a rough environment. No, you think animal, criminal,
mm,
dangerous. Yeah,
mm,
we're not even gonna bother. Yeah.
mm,
So like Akala was saying, in one part of the country, there was a different approach to the problem than in another part.
Yeah.
And no one ever said in Glasgow, white on white crime. We got to do something about this white. What is wrong with the white? No one. Color was never a factor. What it was there were youth participating in
Yeah.
trouble, and we need to
Yeah.
fix it.
Mm.
Yeah. But with any other different group, there's always a label attached to it: black on black crime, knife crime amongst black youth. What is wrong with the black youth? That word black. When you keep getting that toss at you in the news, yeah, black, it sticks in your head. So then that becomes a threat, animal threat. Yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah,
sometimes when you keep hearing the news, let's say I'm driving, I'm listening to the radio, or you hear it on the news, it might not have an effect on you then, but then later, whoever is listening to that will automatically, subconsciously as well, always kind of feel a bit unsafe, you know?
yeah,
And even like, being raised in Edmonton, um, these kind of news can also make, let's say, older aunties and uncles, or, when they see a young black person, they will probably think the same about them. And the thing
exactly.
is, they're both the same color, but it's like, oh,
We're all human beings, and we're getting the same signals.
yeah,
And also, like if you look at it, if you watch the news or you open a newspaper and you see like there's a crime, what's the first thing you think? You know, like you think
where were they from?
oh, I hope they're not black. Why do you think that? Because the environment that you're in, you already know that if they are, just go to the comments. Just go to the comments of any article, and as a black person, just go to the comments. You see the vitriol. You see the, oh, it's always black. Black this, black that. These animals. You see it, and you go, you look at a news article and you go, who did it? Or it wasn't a black guy. Who? Thank
Yeah,
God. But why should that be? It should never be like that, right?
no, no.
But unfortunately, in certain societies, and the societies that this applies to are societies that have histories of oppressing and demonizing groups. Yeah. There's no coincidence with that. There's no
Mm,
coincidence there. But if you have that signal sent to you all the time, you know, you start to believe it. Even like you said, you made a point just now. You could be black and getting that signal all the time, and you go outside and you see a black guy with a hoodie, and you start to feel, oh man, I feel unsafe. But you're black too. So
yeah,
it affects everyone. And then ironically, yeah, while you're feeling unsafe about that person, there might be a white person walking towards you and going, oh my gosh, I feel unsafe. you know? So it's like, it's crazy, and the thing is neither three are a threat, or to even go higher, the black person could hit the white person and go, oh, is this a racist is gonna, but each person's just a normal person going about their daily lives, you
it's
know.
true. It's true.
But yeah, and I before we make another point, is there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah. No, so I was gonna ask you a question later. So you finish what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I made a point about this in my book, Observation of People. There's something that I call the spotlight technique. And this happens in every country with minorities. If you have a minority of that minority doing crime, let's say 5% of that minority doing crime, if you put a massive spotlight on it, yeah, put it to its brightest, put a lot of neon arrows pointing at it, yeah, you would think that what you're looking at is reality.
Uh,
That's the majority. That's what happened. Oh my gosh, that's
yeah.
all you're seeing.
Yeah.
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 And that's what the media does, because if you want to continue to demonize someone in a cowardly way,
Yeah.
you keep putting a spotlight on it
Yeah.
to keep
Yeah.
that fear there, to keep
To
people
keep it going. To keep it going.
to keep it going, right?
Yeah.
And then the problem is that new kids are born into that, and they will do one or two things. They will go, that's not me, and I'm going to try my best to be a good person. Or they will take those signals and go, oh, that's who I am. Okay, I'm going to go over there and do crime. And you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I might as well just get on with it.
Might as well just get on with it. Nobody is one thing. You are programmed to be a certain way, and then you make the decision from there. Where do I go?
Yeah,
Sometimes you don't make the decision. Sometimes your environment drags you that way.
it takes you there.
Yeah.
So with this state that we're living in, yeah, because obviously there's a lot. You have others out there who are doing their best to make sure that what we're talking about becomes less and less.
Yeah.
But can people from different countries and different background live peacefully, live peacefully with the race who comes from the country? So, for instance, is that possible? Is that notion possible? Because we know what the problem is,
Yeah.
like we've described, but is it possible that we will ever get along?
Anything is possible. It is possible. The problem is the way society is set up and the way forces are
Mhm.
is not set out that way. It depends on where you are. So it depends on your ideology, not an individual's ideology, the country's ideology. Because you could go to somewhere like, I don't know, Netherlands, Denmark, New Zealand, and you will see more of a unity among people. Because the ideologies, yeah, the ideology is different. Yeah, there's no fear mongering. People can just be themselves. They're not looked upon a certain way.
Mhm.
Every society you go in, you will get people that are ignorant. You can't help it. Black, white, no matter what color, ignorance exists. It doesn't have a
Mhm.
color. Yeah.
Mhm.
But it depends on the ideology of the country. Because I always think about something like London could seem a bit harsh, right? And this is also an example of how humans think. So you're in London, you think, oh, London is real harsh, like, it's a melting pot, but it's still very kind of like divided. Then you go outside London, Portsmouth, Colchester, and it's so very friendly and different.
That's true.
And
That's
people are more accepting. Is it more
yeah,
community between colors? Like,
yeah, 100%. It's like when I go to Scotland, um, the Aberdeen area. I've got friends there, and it's like you don't feel tension in the air. It doesn't feel harsh.
yeah,
I might go to Yorkshire for a little break, and I don't feel like it's just like, oh, you're here to see the countryside. I'm here to see the countryside too.
yeah,
Or you're welcome to the countryside. Oh, you're from London,
yeah,
So it's certainly true. So sometimes you don't even have to travel to another country to see that some can exist together well,
yeah,
isn't it?
yeah, yeah,
I think a good example, I don't know how true it is, but a good example is Leicester. There is a lot of Indians, Pakistani, you know, and when you speak to the English people there, they don't. When we went there, it was really nice. It's outside, but it's accepted. In fact, when they speak about getting some of the best, food there from Pakistan or India, that's the place to go. So it does exist, where a community can live together peacefully.
yeah.
Do you think it's because London has got everyone? Do you think that's what the problem is? Like when I mean everyone, because if I was to go to Scotland, yes, there'll be a few black people here, Polish. Yeah, it's a bit scattered. Whereas, as you said, London is a melting pot. Do you think it's because everyone is here? It creates tension in the air? Because apart from English people feeling a certain way, or people who are born here feeling a certain way about foreigners, there are other foreigners who don't get along with other foreigners.
It's true. It's very true.
So does that add to the tension? Because we've discussed, being in Britain, what the challenges can be, but then other races don't like other races too,
It's true.
and they are in the same country,
It's true.
So I'm wondering if that adds to it.
I think it does a percentage. I think a small percentage of it is that. I do. Of course, because there will always be clashes. Yeah. But I feel like it's more to do with economical structure and the media structure as well. It's a mixture of a lot of different things. What you said is that is the economical structure, the class structure.
Yeah, because I believe it adds to it a little bit as well.
Yeah. But here's the thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
You just said just now it adds to it a little bit, which means it would possibly be a minority of it, right? But these things are amplified. So if you have a minority, like for instance, you can't help it. There will be clashes, wherever you go, because all sorts of different people. If you like English, Scottish, English, Irish, you know what I mean? Like Igbo, Yoruba, Nigeria, you know what I mean? Like all sorts of different clashes. You can't help it. That's human nature. Even if there's an all white country or all black country or all Asian country, there are clashes. Islam, Hindu, there are always clashes. It's like it's almost like we're programmed to clash. Yeah. But I think like here, economically everybody's struggling. Not everybody, but it's hard in London is a bit tough. Yeah. You have that. You have like infrastructure is a bit weak. There's no like police. We already know austerity is kind of messed. London up more than any place else. Like not many police. The way media is, is a recipe of many different ingredients.
That's true. That's it, and that illustrates a recipe of many ingredients. So
yeah.
Apart from the problem of feeling that minorities are not treated well, it's like other things add to it, and it doesn't help the situation.
Yeah, but it is hard. The original question that you put forth was, is it possible for everybody to get together? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard because human nature dictates that cannot be it won't be the case. Like I said, it depends on the ideology of the country. So when I said New Zealand and Denmark, the ideology is very different. So people can just be people. Yeah. You can have two people that will clash, but they don't care. Hey, you are you, I'm me. I'm making decent money. My life is pretty decent.
Yeah.
You look at me as a human being. I look at you as a human being. If you want to go for a bear, we could go for a bear. If not, who cares? It's cool. Everybody just living their lives. That's it. And that's another thing as well. We are social creatures, right? So if you are accepted, so if you go, let's say you go to Scotland, let's say you leave London, right? And this is a point I'm going to add on to the one I made in the last podcast about rappers coming from one environment and going to the next and thriving. Yeah. So if you leave a rough area in London where you feel it in your bones as a human being, no one cares about you. You feel as if like you don't belong and people see you as a threat. And then what happens is you become a threat because you start to take on the signals around you, right? That's why you see a lot of kids doing nonsense. Yeah. Because they're soaking up those signals.
Yeah.
If I was still here when I was a kid, it could have happened. I've soaking up those signals. You're going to be a criminal. You're going to be a criminal. People treat you different. You could feel it. We're human beings. Like I said, this means nothing. You feel it. Everybody feels it. If you move now, like I moved to Barbados, yeah, and straight away, I'm Barbadian. Everybody is like, you're not British, you're Barbadian, you're one of us. Yeah.
Yeah.
You feel a part of a society, you don't stick out. If you get into trouble, the response isn't, yeah, we knew it. The response is, I can't believe it. That's not you. And then you go, oh, okay. Somebody had belief in me as a good person. And then you grow to be a good person. Yeah. So the problem is in places like London, there's no real room. There is room. Again, it depends on your environment and circumstances. But for certain people, there's no room to feel like a human being. Because all these guys that you see on the block, all this knife crime and stuff, if you show them, yo, dude, was a, I think you are somebody. I think you're, you can be somebody, and you're a human being. You're cool, and you invest in them. They will then start to invest in themselves, and then go, oh, maybe I'm not so bad after all.
Exactly.
And
They feel by doing that, you make them feel different about themselves. Because I remember in school, they had mentors who were just like there to help the young people, and
yeah,
some who were from the minority backgrounds. They felt good about themselves. They felt like they could do something, And up till today, when I speak to some of my friends from school, they remember these people because they made them feel like, yes, you are you, and you can do it.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it does have an effect.
it does.
And I think that's the way we should all see each other, that as individuals rather than where they come from, because once you add that to it, then you have basically, you are your yeah, the way you think of them is just 90% of it is probably wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
If you see the person, like for me, for instance, I'm married to an English woman,
Yeah,
and some have got a problem with that, even from my race. And sometimes it could creep up in my head thinking, oh, have I let my race down? I went for a white person and all that kind of stuff. But you know um but I married her not because of her skin color. So if I had gone for her just because of the color of her skin, the good qualities that she has, the way she makes me feel, the way she treats me, the way she understands me as a human being, I would have just said, you know, because I've dated all sorts of races. It could have been who I would have ended up with, could have been anyone. It's not, so it's the way she treated me, the way she made me feel. It could have been a Ghanaian, it could have been an English person, it could have been someone from Barbados. That, and that's exactly when you see someone, and even after I got married, I had to do my best to not overthink it, because I remember there's times where I phoned you thinking that, oh boy, like,
yeah,
especially when you see issues surrounding what's going on and how Black people are being treated, you feel like, oh, am I letting them down by being on the other side? But
yeah,
then again, I can't think like the way things were back in the day. You don't want that, if you don't want racism to exist, and if you don't want people to look down upon you, then it still has to start with you. Yes, what has happened has been really bad, but then I don't want to be like a slave master. Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah. So we can't keep talking about equality if I'm still gonna be like, yeah, mine is better than yours.
exactly.
Yeah.
And that right there again is that last point is a good point
Mm-hmm.
about human beings and human psychology. It's about finding the middle ground. Yeah. If you notice all through human history, right? Let's start with England. Yeah. People left England because they felt oppressed by the English power structure. Yeah. So they felt oppressed. They wanted equality. They felt oppressed. They left, went to America. Yeah. And instead of learning from that, decided to be what they fled and oppressed other people. So
Yes.
it's like human beings get crushed to feel as low as possible. And
Mm.
instead of learning from it and going, I don't ever want to do that again, what they tend to do is crush somebody else to feel better about themselves, to build themselves back
100%.
up.
100%. So it's funny because in building ourselves back up again, it doesn't mean that we need to look down on another person. You could build yourself up as a person without having to destroy another person.
But unfortunately, the way human beings are made up, that will always be the cycle, unfortunately, because we know, yeah, from a certain age onwards, your brain decides to go narcissistic or codependent or balanced. Yeah. And usually when people come from trauma, they either turn into servants, like, oh, I don't want to hurt you, and then they get trampled on more, or they turn into wolves and they devour people to feel better about themselves because they say in their mind, what happened to me will never happen to me again. I'm going to do it to you before it happens to
Mm-hmm.
me.
Mm-hmm.
So you have people leaving one country, going to the next, doing 3 times, doing what they fled from, doing it 3 times worse. Yeah. And here's the thing, you would think the problem with equality in this world, the reason why it always swings like this and, and it's hard to get in the middle, is that people who are um, disenfranchised and people who are oppressed, no matter what race, because we're human beings, this again, this doesn't mean anything. This operates the same through every race. Yeah. You have two likelihoods. They will, if they ever get power, they will go, we'll never do that. We'll make sure that never happens again. We're going to try and help our fellow man, yada, yada. Or to get equality, they're going to crush everything in their path.
That's it. Yeah.
So the problem is with human beings, equality means superiority. And
That's the problem. So basically, we don't even though that word is so simple, we don't seem to understand that word.
we don't.
Yeah.
We just all we know is about coming out on top, you know. And for somebody who's in this superior position, like they don't see equality either because anytime things become equal, they see it as an attack on their superiority. And think about it from a psychological point of view. That superiority is their identity. It makes them feel like something. Whereas underneath that, they feel worthless. So if you got somebody trying to take that away from them, they're gonna fight hard. Like, oh, you're attacking me, and this is a infringement on my rights. No, you need therapy. That's what you need. Yeah, but but you can see from a human perspective
Mhm,
how they will view it.
mhm.
And another point with your marriage. On top of that, we live in a superficial society. So when we see two different people, different races or different looks or whatever, we look at them and we see it from our point of view, like, oh, that's a black guy with a white girl. You know, how? Why? We tend to forget that outside of that, we just connect with people on levels. So
Exactly. Yeah, and if you do that, you're taking the human feeling away because now it's saying we're going back to the same problem again.
yeah,
Yeah, it's like, oh, oh, yeah,
yeah,
it's like I don't want to be with them because of the color of their skin. Then it's not helping the problem, is it?
no, and then we
But if, this is the interesting thing because in in history,
yeah,
for black people to get the rights that they had to work together well with some white people who were very open-minded,
yeah,
and that is the beauty of it.
yeah,
Funny enough, if you see, because it's funny, it's so interesting you say this. When I was dating my wife, we were at a restaurant and we're just having a laugh, being goofy, just and then we didn't know this. There was a lady watching, like from another table. We didn't know she was watching.
yeah,
And then English lady, she came to us. She said, "You both." He said, "Oh, I forgot the words," but she said something along the lines of, "You both really. It looks like you both get on well, and I wish you all the best." It's like
yeah,
it was almost as if she was touched by what she saw,
yeah,
and I think the reason why I have to say, she's an English person that came on, because my wife is white, and sometimes people don't agree with that. But what I'm saying is that it touched her for her to come say that. Because if it was two black people or two white people, I don't think it would stand out. For her to observe that, it's like, oh wow,
yeah,
they really love each other.
yeah,
And it had an impression on her.
yeah,
And I think she was really impressed.
yeah,
And she came and commented, and we were touched. It was nice. So sometimes even when I'm walking around with my wife, it's like you do get certain looks and you could translate it. We all get looks for different reasons. Sometimes you get the look as like, oh, sometimes I get the look
yeah,
like, especially from black girls, like, okay, you
yeah,
know, that's your, and sometimes you get a positive look.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get a look where it's like more like, oh hi, like,
Yeah.
oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
No, because if I'm being honest with you, Adrian, the whole point of this conversation is to talk about how we can all be together, and we don't like the feeling of, oh, there's a minority. We're all human beings.
Yeah.
And if you see two races, it could be Spanish and, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't have to be English and black or anything. But I think as a human being, you should see the beauty of that, because that's the kind of world that we want. We
Yeah.
don't want anyone feeling like they're inferior or, so.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And to your point, people need to remember that when you see two people together that kind of like triggers you,
Mm-hmm.
remember that people click on a level more than on the surface level, more than looks and
Yeah.
skin. You can meet somebody I can meet somebody from, I don't know, Dubai, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And we have the same sense of humor, same interests. We
Yeah.
click, like, you know what I mean? That's how people become friends. And then
100%.
the next level is just romance beyond that.
Yeah.
But we live in a very superficial, surface level society where we see things from the surface level and go, how, why? Or we see
Why? Exactly.
or we
And
see it.
so,
Yeah.
yeah. And sorry to stop you there,
Yeah.
because you spoke about insecurity when one race or feels like it's becoming too equal. They feel like, oh,
Yeah.
they need to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me to think that way, that would mean that I'm insecure myself. Yeah, because for you to think that love is only within the same people from the same background,
Yeah.
then you are insecure about something, or you haven't educated yourself about something.
Yeah.
You know, because I think having this conversation about race is there's an intelligent way of talking about it,
Yeah.
and then there's an emotional way of talking about it, because emotions
Yeah.
can cause you to basically hate him. Because there is this guy that I know I used to work with, and to him, all white people are devils. End
Yeah.
of.
Yeah.
And even though I'm black and I've seen what can be done to each, can be done as to black people, it made me feel uncomfortable when he made that comment,
Yeah.
because I'm like, bro, I know what you mean. I know what you're trying to say, as there's been a lot of evil done, but for me, I find that extremist now. You
Yeah.
see, because I forgot the name of this guy, but I'll find out. I'll tell you maybe another time when we talk about this subject or something. But
Yeah.
there's this man who fights for minorities, black people in America. His wife is white. Now, when I saw that image of them two, see, you could tell that I've been fed as well,
Yeah.
even though, you know,
Yeah.
I'm trying not to be emotional about it. But I was like, oh, wow. I was taken back. I'm like, wow. And then that's when it clicked to me that there is a logical way, there is a good way of dealing with the race issue
Yeah.
than to be. Because when you get emotional about it, yeah, that's what messes everything up, isn't it?
Exactly.
From both sides. Yeah.
Exactly.
Because of feelings towards minority, the way I feel about them, that's why we always get this, problems,
Exactly.
being arrested for no reason. So I think there's an intelligent way of discussing the subject, and there is a good way of solving it without getting too emotional.
I agree.
Mm.
And to your point about logic, I'm gonna to people out there, yeah, who say, "Oh, white people are devils or black people are criminals or whatever." I'm gonna drop some logic on you. Anybody on this planet has the capacity and ability to be evil or a
Yeah,
devil. It's got
yeah,
again, it's got nothing to do. This stuff is arbitrary. This
that's it.
is genetics. This is to do with which side of the equator you were born in or your ancestors were born in. It all has to do with this, yeah? And the way we are made up as human beings, you will either be a person with a good heart or a narcissistic person, no matter the
Mm-hmm.
color. And when we see things from a grand scale, all that happened is that a small group of narcissistic people gained power and expanded, yeah, and did evil to a mass degree. But even among those people would have been people who did not agree with them. There's a certain country in the past that was known for human rights atrocities, right? And a lot of people followed them, agreed with them. But guaranteed there were people who did not agree with them but had to keep quiet because to speak up meant their lives. But in the world that we live in, there's no such thing as one group being devils or one group being criminals. It's stupid, it's ridiculous. But in every group, you will have a mixture of narcissistic people, codependent people, kind people, evil people. You just, what happens is that people clump together. So let's say me and you are cool people. We're gonna clump together and find somebody else who's cool, clump together. By the time we're finished, there's a group of us that are just cool people.
Yeah.
Same for the other side. Yeah. And the problem is we look at people in groups. So if you see a bunch of guys with hoodies in a gang fight, yeah, you look at that group and you go, black people. No, it's that group. If you see a bunch of football hooligans, they're racist, doing racist chants, you go, white people are racist. No, it's that group, you know. But
It's perfect. Yeah.
yeah,
It makes so much sense because and this is where it gets very interesting because on each side
yeah,
there is someone making it bad for each side.
exactly,
Yeah, so there are black people who are making it look bad on the rest of us, and but then again, it's human because technically saying that still defeats it. But
exactly.
it's almost as if we we shouldn't be thinking that way at all.
And you made a point just now that people are making us look bad. The thought process should never be like that. You should ne-
Exactly.
you should never go around living life being worried that somebody else that you don't know is making you feel bad, because there's nothing you could do about that.
That's true. That's
The
true.
way society is made up is that there are people that will do bad, not
Mhm.
necessarily because inside they are bad. It could be societal issues, environmental issues, mental health. People seem to, when it comes to certain races and minorities, mental health doesn't seem to ever exist. You look at somebody, for instance, a famous rapper just put a diamond in his head. Yeah, that man is mentally unstable. I don't care what anybody says. If you're gonna put a diamond in your forehead, yeah, you're mentally unstable, mental health issues, all right? But because it's a specific race, you look at you, mental health never comes into play. It's like animal. Going back to policing, or we're gonna this will go into the policing in America. You see how they treat people that actually have mental health issues, like black people, dead, shot dead, treated as if they're animals, criminals. There was a program on TV here about a guy that was clearly mentally ill. He wasn't aggressive, he wasn't fighting, but the police response to him was aggressive, and he died. Yeah. But if you look at, like, again, going to America, if a guy with mental health problems picks a gun up and kills 10 people, listen to the news or listen to the narrative: mentally ill, lone wolf, mental problems. You see what I'm saying? Mental health.
The army, because he was in the army, it's affected
It's
him.
affected him.
He was a soldier. He was a hero.
Exactly. You know why?
Yeah.
Because they're looking at that person as a mirror image of themselves. That could have been me. I could have had mental health. But if you have a label attached to another group as animalistic or not human, those rules won't apply to the other person. They'll never apply to the other. You just look at them as, oh, these criminals and these animals. You don't see them
So
as a human being.
yeah. So just like humans like what is familiar to them, and I think that's what it boils down to. We like familiarity. Like,
Yes.
oh, I'm not familiar with that.
Yes.
Ugh. It's just like sometimes you might go somewhere to someone's house and they like try this meal and you're like, oh, what's that? But then you might try and think, this is amazing. But then it's like, no, it's not. It doesn't look like rice. It
Yes.
doesn't look like yam. What is that?
Yes. Yes,
So
exactly.
we like what's familiar, and that's why sometimes we go back to things we shouldn't go back to. So if what you're familiar with is drinking, smoking, watching pornography, it's when you are feeling down and you want some sort of release, then you go back to what's familiar. Now, what is unfamiliar to us? Sorry, this is touching a bit about mental health, but
Yeah,
it will come back to it. But it's like, but then again, you could have someone who's made it familiar to himself to go to reading books, going for a run, watching some motivational videos, eating healthily, doing things that will help you. If you make that what is familiar to you, then you know.
yeah.
Sorry, I'm going off, Adrian. Sorry, I'm going a little
No,
bit off, but it's
ah,
like,
bro.
so bringing it back to the subject that we're talking about.
Yeah,
If what's familiar to you is a certain type of race, is what causes the problems, then you need to make that unfamiliar to yourself and think, no, there's a lot of good people out there, and it doesn't matter. It's just people. So, and that's what it is as well, Adrian. It's human nature again.
yeah,
Human nature again comes into it.
yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. It will be ongoing for life.
For life, you you will get what you will get is swings. You will get maybe in 10 years, it's more inclusive and accepting more than the opposite, and then 20 years on the line, it swings again, is more racist and right wing. See what I'm saying? Look at like America. 4 years, it was up here like racism and everything. And now, I'm not saying it's gonna, do that, but it's gonna do this, and it's always like this. It's
Up and
always
down.
up and down, up and down, you know.
Yeah, up and down. It's true.
But let's segue this now into policing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we've covered that now, right?
Mhm.
So what is a police officer? A police officer is a human being
Mhm.
with the authority to police societies and neighborhoods. Yeah. So you have a human being with their imperfections, their biases, everything now has authority draped on top of them. Yeah. Just like politicians. That's how countries um, invaded the countries and stuff. You have someone that's grossly imperfect, grossly, you know, biased with authority. All right. That's the only difference between a man with a hoodie and a knife and a guy in a suit droning people. Yeah. The only difference is one has authority, so people give him the benefit of the doubt, and the other one is a street urchin that they look at as an animal or whatever. Yeah. It reminds me of Akala's song. What was the song? Murder. Was it? Was it? Was it? Murder makes the world go around. Yeah. Look it up. Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. His song touches on that. But so with police now, right? If you're in an environment where they're fed the same signals about a certain group, dangerous, animalistic,
True.
criminals,
Yeah.
up to no good. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
only signal they get.
Yeah.
So
Because there are people too. There are
they're
people
people
too.
too. They're people
Yeah.
too.
Hmm.
So they can have good people pass them every day, but they would never know that they're good because the mind is saying threat, potential threat, probably a threat. We should probably search him. He might have a knife. He probably has drugs. There's probably something on him because I see him. He must be a threat somehow. Yeah. And what feeds that is when they're seeing youth, knife crime, drugs, gun crime, they go, you see, it confirms my bias, confirmation bias. It
That's it.
confirms my bias that, such and such. Again, the flaw with that from a human perspective is that if that's how you think, you're going to ignore everything
It's true.
that contradicts
Yeah.
your bias. That's
Yeah.
human nature.
Yeah.
So with police, police approach certain people, but they, not as a. So let me start from the beginning. A white person, yeah, he's gonna say a white person. Where's the threat? The person could have a knife and be like, and screaming it to the sky. He's gonna harm himself. He's gonna hurt himself. Let's try to talk him down. This is a fellow human being. Let's see what we could do to help this fellow human being. Yeah. It only when it gets extreme, if they get attacked, then they will probably use force, and right. But this is a human being. We're just trying to help. This is my brother. This is who he looks like me. This is my right. Using the animal kingdom, if you go into a park or something, and you see a squirrel, and it's struggling, you go, oh, cute squirrel,
Yeah, it's true.
That squirrel could bite you and give you rabies. Yeah. But you're thinking cute squirrel. Let me see what I can do to help. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But if you see something that if you see a rat, and I'm stealing this from a movie that I watched, if you see a rat, yeah, you're not gonna go, oh, cute rat. Let me try that. You're gonna be like, rat, like diseases, kill it, get it away. Yeah. But both of them could bite you, and both of them can kill you. Yeah. But it's perception. So now you have that black perception or that foreign perception. Let's not just say black, because it's foreign perception. As a human being with authority, they're going to look at that person and go, okay, threat. Heart starts racing. Yeah. Adrenaline starts pumping. It's almost like seeing a lion in the wild or seeing a tiger coming towards you. Your thought process is, I must survive and I must put this down so that I feel safe. Yeah. So that's how the police approach certain people. Not like human beings anymore, animals, because they've been fed by an external source, and a minority of people following that external source, that confirms in their mind, oh, these people are bad. That's why people say stop a search, because the majority of people are innocent. But from their perspective as a human being, they're seeing it as everyone must be a danger. So
100%.
we can't take that risk.
Yeah.
So they approach it like that. People get shot, people get killed. And if you use America as an example, what happens when an innocent black person gets killed? They try to demonize him. He did drugs 10 years ago. He did some crime 15 years ago. He's got a parking ticket. You see what I'm saying? Why? Because it's like, no, he got shot, but he's an animal and he is bad. So it can be that. So it has to be a reason.
Yeah.
No, there has to be a reason.
Yeah. So even though he's dead, it doesn't. But then again, no human should be killed.
No.
Unnecessarily. It's not. I don't. Yeah.
Yeah. Those people that are killed, the laws of imperfection and does not apply to them. You have to be perfect.
So I guess the way they describe the victim is a way to say, well, we can justify it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Any imperfection is a justification. But if it's somebody that looks like you, and again, this is not a black and white thing. This is any group who has power, policing or oppressing a group who does not, in any part of the world. Yeah. If they see one of their own, they'd be like, oh, he had drugs on him, but imperfect. Let's be lenient. It's not that bad. He's a human being. He's me. He's like me. So cool. But take that same problem and put it on somebody who is different, not of your clan, yeah, is like lock him up for good. Animal, a threat to our society. It's because it's almost like human beings we have senses to help us survive. We have things in our brain that tell us that's dangerous, stay away. But it's almost like everything in our brain has been warped to a twisted degree. So that sense has been warped. Everything has been warped. We have so much stimuli around us, so much, stuff that it's mentally warped us. So in terms of police, that's how they would view it. Or a police might not even be scared. A police might just hate that person. You're beneath me, you know. You're not like me. You don't look like me. You're an animal, you know. I get the chance to feel good about myself, yeah, because I'm probably inside. I feel inferior, so I get to feel good about myself. I'm putting my boot on your neck, and yeah, it feels so good. I'm on top of somebody, you know.
Yeah. But then it's funny you say that. And apart from him being the police as well, this is another human nature thing that always happens. We can get drunk on power.
Exactly.
I can't mention certain things yet, but you know,
Yeah.
you could be with a group of people who can say, "Oh, look, you are this now." In life, you could be the manager now, you know. And when you're in that position, sometimes you could get drunk on that, you know, because let's be honest, when someone makes you feel good about yourself,
Yeah.
whew, they say you can do this,
Yeah.
you have the power to do this. The more you add to the list, the more they're like, oh. I used to work for the council,
Yeah.
and I could go into the park. I could literally, I've got the keys to all the parks in the council.
Yeah.
Literally, you name it, any park I can go there. Not only that, I've got the uniform on, I've got the logo on. Not only that, I've got the track and the you know logo on as well.
Yeah.
But when I drive through that park, I feel like I own it.
Yeah.
And it's not even mine because
Yeah.
it's like I've got this responsibility that makes me like, yeah, you can't just walk in here anytime you want.
Yeah.
No, if I have the keys. If I want to go for a walk late at night in there, even wherever, I could just.
Yeah.
And that's what happens. Goes back to human nature
Yeah.
when you have responsibilities, power. It can get to your head, and you don't know how to handle it.
Exactly.
And it says a lot about the person, isn't it? Because this is what I want to touch on the other side of other policemen that we might have.
Yeah.
Apart from the information they've been fed.
Yeah.
You might have those who just think, you know what? I'm not the kind of person who looks down on foreigners. In fact, a lot of my friends, I don't see, it's just,
Yeah.
Basically what I'm trying to say is that they see people.
Yeah.
And I've seen some nice police, like there's this, I was cycling on the pavement. The police stopped me. They're like, you're not meant to be on the pavement. I said, sorry. They said, what are your details? I was being cooperative. And then they're like, don't worry about it. And then they made a comment. It's like, oh, if everyone that we stopped was like you, they didn't see me as they didn't give me a ticket. They were just like, oh wow, like he's
yeah.
And they just let me go because they were, it's like, so what's your name? I'm like, yeah, this is my name. What's your, I'm like, and I was frank. I'm like, yeah, it's true. I was on the pavement. And yeah, they didn't pursue. They didn't think, oh, let me,
Yeah.
So you do get the few who can have a conversation. Once in a while, I see police having conversations with the public.
Yeah.
And it's refreshing. It's refreshing.
Yeah.
It's like, you're right, sir. Do you need any help? So,
yeah.
But then one thing I wanted to talk about next time is how we view them as well.
Yeah.
Because the way people view police, sometimes it can cut across all races.
Yes.
Yeah, because I know anyone, it's the police, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that another time as well if you want.
Yeah, that's fine. It's just the main point is that everybody looks at everybody the same way. Right.
sorry. Yeah, go.
Everyone looks at everyone the same way.
Adrian, I was going to say, some of the things that we say in between, you could still put it up sometimes. It doesn't matter.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I've noticed that because sometimes they just reshuffle and come back to the subject.
Yeah. Make it more like natural.
Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah.
But yeah, we could talk about that next. Yeah. So next time we will talk about how people view
them as well. Yeah.
Them as well.
Yeah.
And why they view them that way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I could see it linking back to the conversation we had today, because there are some good reasons why we view them a certain way as well. It's not like out of the blue.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so, yeah. And
So,
make sure to subscribe and
yeah,
click on the notification button.
do that. And like this video and share as much as you can.
Yes.
So,
Thank
with that,
you.
till next time.
Thank you. Yeah, no problem.